Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or whenever you're watching me right now. My name is Jay Luke, the owner and operator of the Passion Is Network. I'm also the host of Talk That Talk. You can get any of our merchandise at www.realtalkthattalk.com. All right, man. This was kind of sent to me via email. Someone saw this. I think it was in one of the Uncut groups, and they kind of wanted me to talk about it. So I went and did some digging and some researching. I actually read this thing from top to bottom. Uh, and as I went and did the research, I realized this was in 2021. So, for people who are looking at this and seeing it maybe in any of the uncut groups, realize this is 2021. This letter was written in 2021. And so, you know, even though it is kind of been republished or brought out again, these were things that were happening 3 years ago. Now, I don't know what the state of the band program is now at Delaware State, because this particular thing is from Delaware State. I don't know what the state of the program is now. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up and the reason why I wanted to talk about it is because it really kind of falls in line in some of the same things or the same conversations that I've had before, as it pertains to what's happening at our HBCUs, our HBCU band program, so on and so forth. So I want to kind of look at this real quick and just have a real quick deep dive into this and just kind of talk about a couple of things. So first things first, man, I want to say good job to the students of Delaware State at this time and the approaching storm and the marching band for just banding together and being able to air out their personal complaints and grievances, the things that they are unhappy with, the things that they would like to improve, so on and so forth. So I definitely commend them, because even as an educator, the many times, as a director, I used to tell my students all the time, change only happens when we operate as a collective, and your voice matters, and things will be heard if you move together. And so first things first, that's basically what we see here is the students of Dale State, the approaching storm, the marching band, offering their personal complaints and grievances to the administration. But the reason why I wanted to have this conversation, though, is because they've named a bunch of things in here, and one of them was funding and support, lack of support from the administration, so on and so forth. And we talk about that all the time here on this channel. And one of the things that I continuously say, and I'm going to say it right here in this moment, listen, if you walk into a program where the previous director was not supported financially, from administrative perspective, so on and so forth, and you think that you can walk in and you can change the thought process of the administration, all that kind of stuff, right? Remember that if you make it work with nothing, they're going to continue to support you by making it work with nothing. And then they're going to look at other universities are going to look at them and say, well, this director made it work with nothing. And so since they can do it, y'all can do it too. There has to be a solidarity. And I know I've said this before, there has to be a solidarity in what directors accept from administration, from a support perspective and a financial perspective. And so one of the things that I want to continue to always advocate for is we got to get out of this mindset of, well, they didn't do it, but I can make it work. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you have the initiative that you can make it work. And listen, young band directors, all that kind of stuff. I know you hungry. I know you eager. I've been in that position before, but at the same time, don't just take anything. Don't just accept anything, because they will treat you like anything. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to get in a space where we're comfortable being treated like anything and think that's the norm. Band directors have a right to be treated fairly, respectfully, so on and so forth, financially being supported, all of those things. And so we want to make sure that anytime you step into that position or anytime you step into that role, you are supported and the students are supported. But they go on to talk about the it says efficient scholarships, funding for new uniforms, all of those specific things. And again, we want to make sure that when we're walking into those particular situations, that those are the questions that you ask, in the interview. I'm just gonna be real. Like, what does the support from administration look like? The financial support, so on and so forth. Because those things matter, right? You walk into a situation as a director and you don't want to be the one having to scrape for pennies or trying to figure out how you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, because that's one thing you don't want to do. Is you don't want to rob nobody and you in that particular position. You want to make sure that you can get in there and do the job and be as productive as you can without having to scrape and scrounge. And so, that's one of the things that stood out to me. And then they get into this education and leadership aspect of it. Now, I want to preface this, and let me turn off my phone real quick, but I want to preface this by saying this. One of the things that they ask for, right? They talk about, what it says as far as a music major, and, one of the requirements is being a part of a large ensemble. Hear me well. And this is not only to students, but this is also to directors. Yes, if you are a music major and one of your requirements is being part of a large ensemble, right? First things first, large ensemble doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a part of the marching band. I want to make that very clear. But if you're going to use marching band as part of the large ensemble, here's the other part about it that we have to, as HBCU band programs, have to be more mindful of. We can't just give everybody a grade, right? Like, you can't just give everybody an A. There are kids that don't show up. There are kids that don't show up, don't know their music, don't practice, whatever, ain't never made the field, but as far as a grade, they still pass, right? So students, if you're asking for that, also understand it is a class. The class is the expectation of that class is for you not only to show up, but for you to participate in order to receive the grade that you want to get. Not knowing your music is also, in my opinion, as an educator, is not upholding your end of the bargain by you being in that class. So just saying, be mindful of what you ask for, right? But one of the things a couple of things: attendance during rehearsals and performances, ability to educate, instruct, and support band students, effective and efficient communication between leadership and the full band. So it was a lot going on at this time. And what I hope and I pray is that at this point, those things have been rectified, right? But at the same time, my question is going to be, what the heck happened, not only in the interview process, but what happened in the process of them being directors, and then, what took place behind closed doors? Because the thing is there's multiple sides to every story, right? I'm not saying that I know what happened behind closed doors, but here's my speculation too, right? Those directors could have been fighting for those kids behind closed doors and not receiving the feedback that they would have wanted. So much so that also put them in a position of feeling like, I can't get anything accomplished. I'm done with this particular type of situation. It's time for me to move on, or I'm kind of washing my hands with it, right? Like, and that doesn't necessarily make the situation right, but what it does say is that there's a possibility that they were actually fighting for those students behind closed doors and nothing was happening. And so they then gave up. And again, I'm not saying that this is what happened. I want to make that very clear. I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm just speculating in this particular situation. So again, I really hope that now there has been, within the past 3 years, there have been some change. Now, one of the comments that I did read was similar or something to the fact of, one of the problems that they're having is they're hiring band directors or marching band directors, but not music educators. To me, that's a whole different can of worms. And here's the reason why it's a whole different can of worms. It's a whole different can of worms because of this reason. Right now, we are seeing a rise, and please listen to what I'm saying. We are seeing a rise in Banhead culture. And what I mean by that is the crank up reigns supreme right now. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind a good crank up. I don't. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. But I think that what's happening now is the views and the clicks and the likes are starting to take more precedent over the music educator, if that makes sense, right? So, and don't get me wrong, anybody who's hired in everybody doesn't know everything. Being hungry enough to go and get it is important, but everybody doesn't know everything, right? But being hired in a position to think about just my marching band. I want to get my marching band off the ground. I mean, I'm talking about from an administrative perspective. I want to get the marching band off the ground. I need numbers in the band, and I want them kids to be able to crank up. Well, that's great. There are multiple people out there who are capable of doing that, and we've seen that on multiple levels in many different spaces, right? But the question is that servicing the music education body? Yes, that's servicing the marching band. Yes, the clicks and the views and the likes are going to happen. Yes, and it really boggles my mind when an administration doesn't have money for this band director, but they can find money for another band director. But that's a completely different conversation. But yeah, so it's building all of those things in the marching band world, right? What is that servicing for music education? So, and I don't know if that, and going back to what that person said in the comments, one of the comments, yes, I think that I think that could be a possibility. I don't know, but what I do know is they made light of it, and I can kind of see that happening in a lot of smaller schools. I'm not saying that that's happening in larger schools, but I can definitely see that happening in some smaller schools, because smaller band programs want to be relevant too, right? Right? Like, smaller band programs want to get some shine. Smaller band programs want to get some, want to get that popularity. Those kids are not there just because, well, not anymore, at least, just because, I like the school or I like band and I just want to be in somebody's band program. Unfortunately, I think that time is gone. I think that we're in a position now where a lot of kids want to be in a band that's popular. And I think that's a gift and a curse. And again, that's a whole different conversation. But just going through this again, they were really harping on the fact that they weren't receiving quality education, and linking that back to that comment. They only serve, or they've been hiring marching band directors, but not music educators. That could be one of the main reasons as to why this letter was written at the time. So all of this, and wrapping this up in a little bow, whatever, however you want to say it, is I'm going to put it this way. At the end of the day, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, we've got to, one, accept better for our universities, our university band program specifically. We cannot, under any circumstance, continue to accept the lesser. Right? These kids at the time were asking for a lot, and rightfully so, right? They were asking for more money for the band program. They were asking for support from admin. And looking at Dale State cost of tuition, in-state tuition is the average cost for in-state tuition is, I think it's $28,000. And that's an in-state student. The average cost, and this was from 2021, 2022. The average cost for out of state is $38,000 a year. Okay, so I don't know what the finances are at Dale State. 6,451 students enrolled for the fall of 2023 semester. They have a 3.5% increase from the previous year. So, that's a good thing. Looks like money is coming in to some degree. But what does that look like on the back end when you're talking about the finances for the marching band? Now, here's the issue. 47.9% is the graduation rate, and that's placing it at the bottom of the 35% of institutions. So at the end of the day, we can't just accept anything. I think that's where we start shooting ourselves in the foot. And I know it. I get it. People want to be people hungry. People want to be in somebody's job. People want to just be able to work at somebody's university. But at some point, we can't just accept anything. We can't just say, "Well, I'm gonna take this job. He ain't want it, but I can make it better." Well, that may be true. That may be true, but at what cost? And is it ultimately for the growth of the student? That is the one thing that we got to continue to think about. Is this for the student or is this for your own ego? And sometimes ego gets really heavy in the way when we start talking about us, because we want to be able to say we are the band director if we put this band in this particular position. So I don't know, man. Again, once again, this was what 2021. So I don't know if this is still happening at Dale State, man. If it, I hope it's not. If it is, I'm gonna keep you guys keep sending me the information, and I'll keep talking about it. I want to continue to be able to follow this and see how this is going. And shoot, I would actually love to interview one of the directors or the current director, whoever is there. So, if y'all got the information, send them my way or give me the information. But I want to know your thoughts. You guys tell me what's your thoughts on this, man. Have you all read this before? Do you think that we are going in the right direction as it pertains to our HBCU band programs, or has Banhead culture completely taken over? Our band programs being supported, man? I want to know all that information, man, down in the comment section. I appreciate you guys, man, and we'll keep an eye on this, man. Appreciate you. Peace.